Earlier today, the Baltimore police gave the DA findings from their investigation into the death of Freddie Gray, but that material is not being released to the public as of yet. Now, no matter what that report says, few people are going to debate with us that it will be universally believed unless there's video of exactly what happened inside that police van. Of course, it doesn't look like that video exists. And what happened in Baltimore is by no means relegated to just that city. It's causing protests in cities just about everywhere. 100 demonstrators arrested in New York City alone last night, a dozen arrests in Denver. And for some, I'm hearing about echoes of a different time in the country when you go back to the late 60s when places like Newark torn apart by riots. And certainly no one's saying that we're there now, but if you look about, Dom, at some of the contributing factors of then and now, where there was feelings in certain communities of hopelessness, there was tension, obviously, with law enforcement, a distrust that was coming out from leadership, whether it be wherever it was from, and then a growing gap between have and have not, where they didn't see the opportunity at the end. Again, I'm not trying to get us to where we are, but it just seems that it takes so little right now. Think about what we're worried about next. If there isn't indictments or even charges in Baltimore, what happens
it's not
then?
so little if you're a black man. It's not so little. We're seeing black men that look just like me are having encounters with police, and black men are dead. I mean, anybody else can look at it as so little. Because,
no, when I say little, I'm saying it's going to take very little sparks to turn something into much bigger.
Yes, we're almost at it there now. But Richard, here's my question to you guys, and I guess to the
you people,
you people, yes, you people.
And no one looks just like you.
You people, you people.
You got your own thing.
Here's my question, and I don't know if it's a rhetorical question, but how can we be surprised at what's happening in Baltimore? No investment in community, no jobs, only economy is the drug game. Now, when I say that, Richard, I'm not approving of the violence that occurred. That's disgusting, reprehensible. It's beneath
No, I get it.
people.
And just to save time for this conversation, let's assume that all five of us universally agree there's no justification for what happened a couple nights ago.
Okay.
That said, do you think, and I'll start and go around, do you think that we're getting closer to that period of time?
We're getting closer. The reasons are different. The actions are a little different. The sparks are different. But in the end, there are reasons that communities do this. It's not to excuse it, but if you're going to understand it, you have to understand the socioeconomic context in which this stuff happens. What you've got right now is a complete disconnect in the conversation. There are people who want to talk just about the socioeconomic context. There are people who want to talk just about the outrageous and criminal behaviors. Neither one serves the nation.
Yep.
Both have to be addressed.
And for me, Bill, the hardest part about this thing is, in different parts, in different chapters in American history, we had maybe bloodshed or we had major strife, and there was at least a piece of legislation or an end to a war or something else where you could put a period on something. Wouldn't end it, but at least it allowed for the next chapter of the conversation to happen. For anybody, the smartest people that I've talked to, whether they're in law enforcement, experts or not, nobody thinks that there's a switch that can happen that can all of a sudden restore faith in law enforcement in certain communities in this country. So every time we have an incident, and now the worst is assumed, whether it's true or not, as to what happened in there, that I don't know how, I do this for a living. I don't know how we're not going to have these kind of stories in different parts of the country every so many months, and they don't stay in that community. They go into bigger things, and you just feel this further fracturing that's going on, and I don't know an easy answer to it.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and I think in 1968 you had the Vietnam War going on, and you had the draft. There were other contributing factors to that. But yeah, we're getting closer to it. There's no question. I think anything but a dramatically picking up economy is going to fall short in this case. There are a lot of issues involved. There's an issue of breakdowns of the family.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is.
That's a very important issue.
Yeah.
The breakdown of the black family.
Yeah, I mean, plus the crazy disparity in incomes. It exists. It's real.
And Andrew, for a long time, you called Maryland home for a long time.
Yeah.
and
Baltimore
home. The shipping jobs are gone. There's so much of the industry of the charm city, as they called it. I mean, talk about a misnomer, right? That's part of this. If you got nothing to lose, there's less incentive here to let it burn out sitting at home and trying to organize a march the next day. Again, nobody excuses what's going on, but you know, The Wire wasn't just a show. It talked about a real chapter of that city.
Those jobs have been gone for 40 years from Baltimore, and you know, you haven't seen this kind of reaction on the streets. It's a cumulative thing. It's socioeconomic. It is law enforcement. It's a bunch of these things all sewn together. But there's also, this is not just a problem. It's not just a black problem. It's not just an urban problem. There are people all over America who find themselves in the same socioeconomic quagmire that the people of Baltimore find themselves in, or the people in Ferguson found themselves in.
We've always had poor people in this country, though, but there seems to be a tension right now that's ratcheted up.
And the gap is getting bigger.
You're missing the connection here. There is the general question of the hopelessness, economic hopelessness of millions of people and wildly rich billionaires. That's the context. What you've had here is a spate of issues where violence perpetrated by police, justified or unjustified, has sparked a deeper sense of frustration. First thing you do is you get rid of the spark. You can do that.
Easier said than done on this one.
Look, give Hillary credit. She came out today for every cop in the United States having a body camera. That won't solve it, but it'll go a long way to increasing public faith.
Okay, when we come back here, want to bring in our good friend Mike Lyons, because a couple of interesting issues, one of which is standard policy in America does not negotiate with terrorists, and it doesn't pay for ransoms for hostages either. Doesn't even want those families directly impacted paying up independently. But after the death of several people held captive, the government looking to possibly make some changes. Our military analyst will join us to tell us if you think it's a good or a bad idea.